September 3, 2025. The world's attention turns sharply to the Caribbean, where a new chapter in regional tensions is about to unfold. The date marks a turning point as events begin to accelerate with unprecedented speed. The Caribbean Sea churns with tension as a powerful U.S. naval flotilla assembles off Venezuela's coast. The sight of so many warships, their hulls slicing through turquoise waters, sends a clear signal to both allies and adversaries alike. The United States is making its presence unmistakably known in a region long considered its strategic backyard. This is the largest American military deployment in the region in years, involving advanced warships and thousands of personnel. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, and support vessels form a formidable armada, their decks bustling with activity as sailors and Marines prepare for any contingency. The scale of the operation dwarfs previous missions, evoking memories of Cold War-era standoffs. The message is unmistakable. Washington is prepared to act decisively regarding Venezuela's political crisis. The American flag flutters defiantly in the Caribbean breeze, a symbol of resolve and a warning to those who might challenge U.S. interests in the hemisphere. The fleet's capabilities range from sophisticated surveillance to direct combat operations, raising global speculation about U.S. intentions. Advanced radar systems sweep the horizon, while drones launch from destroyer decks, gathering intelligence and monitoring every movement in the region. The world's media and foreign governments scramble to interpret the true purpose behind this show of force. Officially, the mission targets drug trafficking, a persistent threat in these waters. Yet the sheer scale and firepower of the deployment suggest a broader agenda, one that may include safeguarding vital oil shipping lanes, deterring regional adversaries, or even preparing for more direct intervention in Venezuela's ongoing crisis. The destruction of a speedboat, resulting in several deaths, underscores the operation's deadly seriousness. The incident, captured on surveillance cameras, sends shockwaves through local communities and international observers, highlighting the razor's edge on which the region now balances. This incident, labeled an anti-drug action by U.S. officials, highlights the real risks of escalation. Each encounter at sea carries the potential for miscalculation, and the world watches nervously as military spokespeople attempt to reassure the public that the situation remains under control. The deployment marks a dramatic shift from years of sanctions and diplomatic maneuvering to overt military pressure. The Pentagon's statements are carefully worded, but the message is clear. The era of quiet diplomacy may be over, replaced by a new phase of open confrontation. The warships are a constant reminder of American power, transforming the region's political landscape and fueling uncertainty. Their presence looms over coastal cities, casting long shadows both literally and figuratively, as local populations wonder what the future holds. The world watches, bracing for the next move in this high-stakes geopolitical standoff. Newsrooms buzz with speculation. Diplomats hold urgent meetings, and ordinary people across the globe follow every development, aware that the decisions made here could ripple far beyond the Caribbean, shaping the course of international relations for years to come. The United States has dramatically increased its naval presence in the Caribbean, claiming that this buildup marks a renewed and intensified war on drugs. Warships patrol the waters, and officials hold press conferences emphasizing the threat posed by international drug trafficking networks. The message is clear. The U.S. is taking bold action to stop the flow of narcotics into its borders, and it wants the world to know. But this campaign is not just about drugs. The U.S. has directly accused Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his top officials of being deeply involved in the global narcotics trade. Infographics and intelligence reports are presented as evidence, painting a picture of a government allegedly complicit in trafficking operations that stretch across continents. In a dramatic move, Washington has placed a multi-million-dollar bounty on Maduro's head, treating him as a wanted criminal. The operation is framed as a law enforcement mission, with the U.S. government offering rewards for information leading to the arrest of Venezuelan leaders. This escalation signals a shift from diplomatic pressure to open confrontation. The destruction of a suspected drug smuggling speedboat is showcased as a major victory, with images of seized vessels and captured contraband circulated widely. Yet despite these high-profile successes, many experts remain skeptical, questioning whether these actions truly address the root of the problem or simply serve as political theater. In fact, data from independent sources suggests that Venezuela is not the primary route for drugs entering the United States. The scale of the military deployment, with warships and aircraft, appears excessive for a mission supposedly focused on narcotics interdiction, raising further doubts about the official narrative. Critics, including political analysts and activists, argue that the so-called war on drugs is being used as a convenient pretext for a much broader and more strategic agenda. They point to the timing and intensity of the operation, suggesting that it serves other interests beyond combating drug trafficking. The intense focus on President Maduro, combined with the sheer scale of the U.S. military presence near Venezuelan waters, has led many to believe that the real objective is regime change. The operation, critics say, looks less like a drug interdiction effort and more like a show of force aimed at toppling the Venezuelan government. This growing skepticism has fueled heated debate in the media and among policy experts. Headlines question the true motives behind the U.S. presence, and panel discussions dissect whether the war on drugs is merely a cover for deeper geopolitical ambitions in Venezuela. Many believe the real aim of the U.S. buildup is to force regime change in Venezuela. The U.S. has long opposed Maduro, citing his alliances with Russia, China, and Iran, and his alleged abuses. The naval deployment is a modern form of gunboat diplomacy, designed to intimidate and destabilize Maduro's regime. Washington hopes the show of force will fracture Venezuela's military loyalty and pave the way for a new U.S.-friendly government. The operation is less about drugs and more about sending a clear message. The U.S. is ready to intervene directly. The regime change agenda is barely concealed, driving the crisis into dangerous territory. In the midst of a tense geopolitical standoff, Chevron is charting a daring and uncertain course in Venezuela, a country that boasts the world's largest proven oil reserves. For decades, these vast reserves have been both a blessing and a curse, drawing the attention of global superpowers and energy giants alike. Now, Chevron finds itself at the heart of a high-stakes gamble, navigating not just the treacherous waters off the Venezuelan coast, but also the complex political landscape that surrounds them. U.S. sanctions have long kept Chevron's ambitions in check, severely limiting its ability to operate and profit in Venezuela. However, a recent shift in U.S. policy has opened a narrow window, allowing Chevron to export limited quantities of Venezuelan oil. The catch: every dollar earned must go toward paying down Venezuela's crushing debt, rather than enriching President Maduro's regime. This delicate arrangement is closely monitored by both governments, making every transaction a potential flashpoint. Chevron now faces the daunting task of balancing cooperation with the Venezuelan state while remaining in strict compliance with U.S. regulations. All of this unfolds under the watchful eyes of U.S. warships stationed nearby, a constant reminder of the fragile peace and the ever-present threat of escalation. The military presence in these waters is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it could serve to protect Chevron's assets and personnel from potential threats. On the other, it raises the stakes. Any miscalculation or provocation could quickly spiral into conflict, putting lives and investments at risk. In such a volatile environment, a single misstep, whether political, operational, or environmental, could transform a lucrative opportunity into a catastrophic disaster, with far-reaching consequences for Chevron and the region. Chevron's bold move is a microcosm of the broader U.S.-Venezuela relationship, a delicate dance between confrontation and cooperation. Every decision is fraught with risk, and the margin for error is razor-thin. The company's future and billions of dollars in investment hang in the balance. Investors, analysts, and governments alike are watching closely, knowing that the outcome could reshape the global energy landscape. Today, Venezuela's oil fields stand as some of the world's riskiest business bets, a place where fortune and failure are separated by the thinnest of margins, and where Chevron's next move could change everything. The U.S. naval deployment has split the international community. Allies like France and Trinidad and Tobago support the anti-narcotics mission, lending some regional legitimacy. But critics, including Colombia's President Petro, denounce the move as imperialism, while Mexico remains cautious and non-committal. This division complicates U.S. strategy and exposes deep anxieties about American dominance in Latin America. The lack of consensus among Venezuela's neighbors undermines Washington's efforts to build a unified front. Some nations prioritize security cooperation, others defend sovereignty and non-intervention. The diplomatic rift leaves the region tense and uncertain. The crisis in Venezuela has become a test of competing global and regional visions. The standoff recalls the 1989 U.S. invasion of Panama, when drug trafficking was also the pretext for regime change. By invoking this history, Washington sends a warning to Maduro: yield or risk a similar fate. The U.S. has escalated pressure, doubling bounties on Maduro and treating him as a fugitive. The combination of military threats and personal targeting creates a volatile, unpredictable situation. Analysts see this as part of a broader U.S. effort to reassert influence in a region where China and Russia are gaining ground. The crisis is now a flashpoint in global power competition, not just a local dispute. The echoes of Panama are a chilling reminder of what could come next. Venezuela has responded with military drills and diplomatic outreach, projecting strength and seeking international support. Maduro frames the U.S. deployment as imperialist aggression, appealing to the UN and global allies. The government's goal: build a coalition against intervention and isolate the U.S. diplomatically. Yet, behind the defiance, some cooperation persists. Limited oil exports to the U.S. and deportation flights continue. Unconfirmed reports suggest back-channel talks and contingency planning. Venezuela's response is a mix of public resistance and pragmatic engagement, reflecting the immense pressure it faces. The government walks a tightrope, preparing for outcomes from negotiation to conflict. In Caracas, daily life continues amid crisis fatigue. Most residents are more concerned with food, medicine, and basic services than with the threat of war. There's deep frustration with both the Maduro government and the prospect of foreign intervention. Many fear that any conflict would only worsen suffering and hope for a peaceful, Venezuelan-led solution. National pride runs strong. Few support outside powers deciding their future. People feel trapped between a government they distrust and a foreign power they don't welcome. Their hope is for stability, prosperity, and a return to normalcy. The resilience of Caracas is matched only by its longing for peace. Ordinary Venezuelans are caught between U.S. pressure and Maduro's repression. Sanctions and military threats have deepened the humanitarian crisis, causing shortages and suffering. The naval blockade further isolates the country, while the government uses the threat to silence dissent. Critics are labeled traitors, and political opposition is stifled. Citizens face a false choice: support a failing regime or risk war through foreign intervention. The real cost is measured in lost hope and daily hardship. The true frontline of this crisis is the struggle of millions for survival and dignity.